Welcome to my channel. Washington in turmoil. What is Vance hiding? Washington gaffes. A Republican senator has triggered a political storm by publicly defending the I Love Hitler group chat as crude jokes by kids, JD. Vance's shocking statement is more than just an excuse. It's a subtle signal sent to a covert network. Democratic Representative Jasmine Crockett immediately declared war, accusing Vance of normalizing extremism to protect powerful donors. Crockett asserts the group chat is just the surface of a programmed moral manipulation strategy. All of America is forced to confront the question, is Vance truly ignorant, or is he deliberately distracting us from a bigger secret? America doesn't collapse from ordinance. It collapses when the very moral principles are sold out by the people entrusted to protect them. On a fateful Tuesday morning, a teenage group chat riddled with praise for Adolf Hitler became the biggest political earthquake of the year. The outrage didn't stem from the group chat itself. The outrage erupted when Republican Senator J.D. Vance, a rising star of the right wing, appeared in public. He declared in an impossibly cold tone, "Grow up, don't focus on what kids say in group chats. The reality is that kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes. That's what kids do." That statement was an electric shock that paralyzed the entire political landscape. Vance wasn't just making excuses, he was normalizing extremism. He was using the guise of youthful innocence to protect a bigger secret. And that was the moment Representative Jasmine Crockett, the woman from Texas, stepped in. Crockett was no longer the Congresswoman fighting for the humanitarian budget. Now, she was the lonely beacon fighting against a sort of spiritual plague being enabled by those in power. She knew Vance was hiding something. She was determined to expose it. This is not a story about kids doing stupid things. This is a story about how a segment of the political elite is using so-called innocence to build a network of hatred within America. Power is lying. Jasmine Crockett will reveal it all. The incident began when local reporters exposed a private group chat of wealthy high school students. The content included memes praising Hitler and humorous discussions about the final solution. Vance immediately defined this as a minor incident that needed internal handling. He emphasized the phrase crude jokes to minimize the offense, using his power to redefine reality. By saying grow up, he implicitly accused opponents of being overly sensitive and exaggerating everything. The biggest paradox emerged. Vance, who consistently champions the working class and traditional values, was suddenly willing to defend wealthy, privileged youth engaged in extremist behavior simply because that action served his culture war agenda. Vance was selling out morality to buy the support of the radical right, turning hatred into a political tool. Representative Jasmine Crockett learned from her failure in the previous budget confrontation. She didn't let emotion take over. She held an unscheduled press conference, not to cry or pound the table, but to present a cold, logical case against the normalization doctrine. She declared without wavering, when a senior politician defends a statement praising genocide with the phrase, "kids do stupid things," they are opening the door for hateful ideology to step into public policy. That is the legalization of hate. Crockett directly countered Vance with a question. Senator Vance wants me to grow up. How much more do I have to grow up before I'm allowed to call hatred hatred and not a joke, Senator? The tactical opposition is the core of the current partisan conflict. Vance's Republican Party wins by inciting emotion, anger, and fighting wokeness. Crockett's Democratic Party is now attempting to fight with reason, data, and principle. The fight is no longer about policy. It's about who controls the definition of truth and morality. Crockett is trying to redefine maturity not as apathy, but as accountability for one's words. Crockett's team rejected Vance's excuse. They posed the key question, why would Vance risk his career to defend a group chat entirely unrelated to him? An anonymous source from Crockett's office revealed, "We found a suspicious common thread. One of the parents of those kids is a major donor to political campaigns linked to Vance." But that's just the surface. The deeper truth is that I Love Hitler was not a random joke. It was the manifestation of an ideology cultivated from the top down. This exposes the nature of moneyed power. Extremist donors are purchasing silence and even protection from senior politicians. The corruption of American politics doesn't stem from buying policy, but from buying morality. Crockett publicly challenged, Senator Vance says I should focus on the real issues, so I will focus. The real issue is, why is the money from your supporters flowing into peripheral organizations that foster the very ideology you call a joke? Crockett and her team uncovered a network of nonprofit organizations and think tanks linked to Vance's far-right donors. These organizations often fund social media campaigns to normalize white nationalism under the guise of preserving Western culture. Crockett didn't call Vance a Nazi. She called him an enabler. She clarified, "This is not about a group chat. This is about a budget. Money to fund hatred is being funneled into the political system under the pretext of intellectual freedom." The partisan divide reached a new level. The Republican side, via Vance, uses free speech as a shield for hatred. The Democratic side, via Crockett, uses moral accountability as a weapon against monetary power. The fight is no longer about taxes or health care. It is the soul of the republic. Crockett summoned leaders from the Jewish community, educators, and war veterans to directly confront Vance through real-life testimonies. In a special event, a 90-year-old Holocaust survivor was invited to speak. He said, his voice trembling, "I don't know what crude jokes are. I only know mass graves, and his words frighten me more than bullets." Crockett is redefining the meaning of politics. She forces Americans to face the question, does free speech include the freedom to incite hatred? She offers a philosophical argument. When we allow hatred to be disguised as a joke, we are signing a power of attorney for atrocity to recur. Vance countered with cold sarcasm. Representative Crockett is trying to profit from outrage. America has real problems, and I will not let this emotional theater waste valuable congressional time. Crockett immediately fired back. If protecting people from hatred is emotional theater, then what is your defense of those who fund hatred? That is cold calculation. And that is the most inhumane thing I have ever seen in this Capitol. Media pressure and continuous attacks from Crockett's team caused Vance to show impatience. He posted a series of social media posts criticizing Crockett as a tool of the radical left and implying she was wasting congressional time on nonsense. Behind the scenes, Vance was being isolated even within his own party. Many moderate Republican members felt wounded by his statement, but were too afraid of the far-right base to speak out. Their silence was tacit proof of Crockett's argument. Hatred is being tolerated for political gain. Vance doesn't need to be an extremist. He only needs to protect the extremists. And the silence of his colleagues is the complicity of an entire system. In the Oversight Committee hearing, Crockett made her final move. She presented data proving the flow of money from Vance-linked funds to online groups that encouraged the use of shock memes to appeal to youth. Crockett didn't call Vance a Nazi. She called Vance the facilitator. She made it clear, this is not a group chat issue. This is a budget issue. Money to fund hatred is being funneled into the political system under the pretext of intellectual freedom. Crockett accused Vance, "You deliberately diverted public attention by focusing on the kids while the big players sit safely in their offices. You are not protecting children. You are protecting donors." Vance retorted, "I am defending the Constitution. I am defending free speech. You are destroying the foundation of democracy by trying to censor what you don't like." Crockett countered with a cold, decisive statement. Free speech is not freedom to incite, and if the Constitution protects its own enemies, then the Constitution itself is being betrayed by you. Under the pressure of the financial evidence presented by Crockett, a staffer from a Vance-linked think tank voluntarily provided information. While the information didn't directly implicate Vance, it confirmed that the trivialization of extremist rhetoric was a clearly discussed media strategy within far-right groups to break down public moral barriers. This confession confirmed that Vance was not acting randomly. He was following a pre-programmed script to normalize the unnormalizable. Vance may have won the battle of words, the youth, but Crockett won the battle of morality and philosophy. The Vance-Crockett incident became an acid test for the moral health of American politics. Vance's statement, exposed by Crockett, sent a clear message to the world. A segment of the American leadership is willing to trade compassion for power. In Europe, far-right leaders immediately adopted Vance's tactics. America once taught the world about post-war responsibility. Now, through Vance, it is teaching the world how to evade responsibility under the guise of free speech. The collapse of a superpower doesn't begin with military failure, but with the erosion of moral conscience. In her final address, Representative Jasmine Crockett concluded with a declaration that shook Congress. She looked directly into the camera, no longer angry, only coldly determined. Senator Vance wants me to grow up and ignore hateful words, but I cannot, because those words are not crude jokes by kids. They are the seeds of collapse. I have seen poor children in Texas. I have seen injustice. And I know that when those in power begin to defend words that praise evil, they are no longer leaders. I am not fighting a group chat. I am fighting a philosophy that says money matters more than people and power is built on hatred. And I will never, ever call that maturity. Vance may have won in protecting his donors, but Crockett won in saving the American political philosophy. She forces the nation to ask, in the war between ideology and ethics, what is our final limit? If a politician is willing to use the name of the greatest atrocity in human history to justify a joke, then is America still lucid enough to realize that what they are protecting is not free speech, but the return of the darkness? The truth has been exposed. The decision is now in your hands. This is the moment when conscience confronts power. If you believe that apathy is complicity, use your actions to fight back. Hit like to record your formal dissent. Share this video now to force Vance and his extremist network into the light, and subscribe to join Jasmine Crockett in writing a new chapter in history where money cannot buy the truth.